Okay, let's get started. Welcome, you guys. Can you hear me? So let me know if you can hear me. Awesome. How is everybody today? I know it's not quite Friday yet, but we're almost there, right? Good. Yeah, we're in the middle of the week. We're almost finished with this class. Can you believe it? It's kind of crazy. Well, hopefully you guys are doing good. Looks like you guys are good. Sorry about any technical difficulties that happened the last week. I'm not sure what was going on. I had some issues logging in and some Zoom issues, so I apologize about that. Hopefully you were able to get the recording though from the last lecture, but I just kind of I went for it and there was just some hiccups, but you know, that's just one of the things that happens when you are doing things sometimes on a computer and you have technical issues. So I appreciate your patience for sure. All right, as we wrap up this week, I can't believe it's going to be finals week. You guys are working on your discussions, the last final discussion. So discussion 4, and you are finishing up your project, or actually your project. So we're going to go through a few things here. So do a little quick overview of what we're doing this week, and then we'll get right into your assignment 4. We'll do an overview and demo just like we usually do. I'll give you some things to think about, some techniques to do to make your photo composite look more realistic with the background. And then, you know, we'll just have some time for open critique. If you have anything that you want to show so far, any questions, we'll kind of open it up for critique. Before we get started, did you have any questions or concerns? So far, no. Okay. You guys are easy. All right, well, let's take a look at week 4 on Canvas. I know most of you guys are already posting to discussions, which is great. I've been reading through some of your posts here. Let's go to week 4. Final week this week. We're pretty much going to be refining your photo composites for this week. So some of the learning objectives are basically having to do with masking, restoring, retouching, enhancing your photographs, blending modes for recoloring and compositing, you know, using the most efficient selection tool for various photo subjects, some of the mistakes that could be made with creating masks, and, you know, just talking about Photoshop layers and clipping masks, and identifying the 4 main masking tools for creating a silhouette of a subject. So basically, it says this week we will finish our 2-part compositing project, refining and perfecting it with blending modes and adjustment layers. So, you know, you can definitely watch this little video here provided to you guys. And also don't forget, and I always kind of like to show this because sometimes, you know, we kind of plug along, we're busy, but Course Media, there's great resources in here. Week 4 can definitely be a very great supportive resource with your lynda.com playlists here that goes through some, you know, it basically goes over some of the things that we already talked about. But if you need, you know, just a little refresher on some certain things, talks about the liquefying masking tools, stuff that we may have not touched upon yet. So you might want to check that out. So week 4, it doesn't look like there's any required videos, or as far as lynda.com playlist, there's no required videos in terms of YouTube or articles, but just lynda.com. So definitely check that out. You guys, let's go back to the home page here. You guys have a discussion, and also don't forget, because it all adds up, your career integration quiz that has to do with this specific class. You know, kind of what you learned, answering the prompted questions substantially. It's, you know, another points added to your total for your grade. So it all adds up, just like your discussion posts and your extra credits information too. All right, let's take a look at your discussion. Let me see if you have any questions. Like I said, most of you guys are doing great. Since we're doing our lecture on Wednesday, most of you guys are getting this in, before then, which is great. Don't forget your initial post needs to be posted by midnight tonight for possible full credit. So basically what we're going to be talking about here is when photoshopping goes bad. We've all seen it before. And I think this is kind of a fun discussion because we really get to see some maybe not so great, not so effective photo compositing. And what's great about that is we really learn from other people's mistakes and what may not be as effective so that we're not making the same mistakes. All right. So last week we pretty much discussed the effective photo composites. So this week we're looking at flawed composites. Okay, so I'm going to read through this. Let me know if you have any questions. So this week we will be looking at flawed composites. There are a number of reasons why a design piece might be flawed. The concept might not work. So it might not just be, a technical aspect, but the concept might not work. The chosen images might be poor quality. The masking may be poor. The blending modes may be inappropriate. The composition may be unbalanced. So addressing mistakes and understanding why a project may not work is an important part of a designer's development as an artist. When we identify the shortcomings in our own designs, as well as the designs of others, we can learn to avoid these mistakes in future projects. So it talks about low quality images. So perhaps the most common mistake students and beginning designers make in a composite project is starting with low quality images. An image might be low quality for one or a number of reasons. The photo may be low resolution, underexposed, or overexposed, out of focus, or the photo itself may be simply unappealing. A photo may be unappealing because it was taken at a boring or awkward angle. The model may be posed awkwardly or uncomfortable looking, or the composition of the photo might be discordant. Ensuring that your original source imagery is high resolution, in focus, well lit, well posed, and a well composed photograph is essential in starting a project. So let's talk about techniques. Another reason a photo composite might be poor is due to technical mistakes. When designers rush their adjustments, make imperfect selections, don't take care to make clean masks, don't finesse their colors and adjustment layers to make the different layers appear seamless, the result can be ineffective product. Adjusting the individual elements of a composite so that the color and lighting quality match is an essential technique to master when working with photos. These adjustments can be made with adjustment layers and blending modes. Retouching and restoring imperfections in the original photo elements is an important part of the compositing process. Rarely are the original elements perfect. For this reason, designers should master the spot healing tool, the clone stamp, and color adjustment layers to make these elements ready for the project. Enhancing an image means altering it so that it is dynamic and effective as possible. Some techniques used to enhance include using adjustment layers, blending modes, as well as filters such as liquify or transform tools such as perspective and skew. Taking care to practice your technical skills and then taking the time to implement those skills effectively is one way to ensure the best result with your project. So for this discussion, find and share a flawed Photoshop composite. Discuss why the composition isn't effective, and then answering the following questions. What changes could have been made to improve the composite in terms of technique, concept, and composition? So what do you think? When you choose, you're going to go out and search for something that you think is not effective. It could be, just the concept. Could be composition. Could be all the above. What could the artist have done to make the transitions believable? A lot of you guys are doing a great job with pointing out certain things within your example so far, so it's kind of glad to see that. Good job. If shadowing was an issue, or was the issue, how could the shadowing have been more effective? Maybe the shadowing isn't quite right. Maybe the light source isn't coming from the right perspective, and you have two different light sources, and it looks awkward. What masking tools do you think were used or misused? What blending modes and or adjustment layers do you think could have made the project better? Yeah, so maybe it wasn't quite blended enough where it's kind of looking like it was just stuck on there. And it's just kind of not very believable. So for your citation, you might use articles that show examples of good compositing or bad compositing. So you can kind of do a compare and contrast. You can also find articles from experts that suggest what makes for good compositing and design techniques. Don't forget to kind of, challenge each other. If you see one side of, maybe somebody's just only seeing one side of the questions being asked, you can bring up some other perspectives. But like I said, most of you guys, I'll kind of sneak peek here, are doing a great job of finding ones that, aren't quite as effective. And you could definitely tell. It almost looks like, you have these images just like pasted on there. It almost looks like, when you cut images from a magazine and then you I forget what it's called, like a collage of sorts, and then you paste it on top. It's not quite blended. It almost looks like it's cut and pasted on top. So it's not looking like a believable whole image. Okay. So, what are some examples? Maybe look around the house if you see ads, maybe not so much, but let's see if we can go just a Google search here. Bag photo composite images, or maybe ineffective. Maybe you can find some here. Just doing a Google image search. There's some in here that you could definitely kind of talk about. All right. Probably Pinterest is a good place to look too. You might even receive something in the mail that a lot of the times we do receive postcards from places and it's like, man, that looks like, there's a lot of type issues, but you don't have to talk about that. But if there's like a photo composite that you noticed, you can scan it in, take a picture. We can talk about it too. But do you have any questions so far? I think it's pretty straightforward. We're just looking at ineffective photo composites and just comparing and contrasting. So it's great. It's great to kind of look at this so we know what not to do when we go forward with our projects. All right. Very, very good. All right, so a couple of things that I noticed before we go forward here. Let me go back to my slides. Just a little recap. If you guys have any questions about what you had to do, what was expected of you guys for assignment 3, let me know. We can talk about it. But some things that I noticed that were some issues going on in your assignment 3, squished images. Some of the images I think for the most part were more of the centaur image of the body of the person, and then the horse may have been distorted. You can kind of skew and use perspective, but make sure you're not doing it too much, and do it subtly if you need to. But I did notice some people that did have distorted images, and you definitely can tell right away. So make sure you're not distorting your images, squishing it out of distortion. Jagged edges on mask. I noticed some of you guys had that going on. So just make sure your selections are refined. You can use the refinement tool. You can feather your edges. We kind of discussed that last week as well. White areas are not erased. Just a few of you had still some white areas that were very prominent. So make sure you're using the correct selection tools and refining that as well. I saw more so a lot of human too large and small for the horse. And some of it is just very small scaling adjustments that need to be made, but you can kind of tell there's a weird balance if you're looking at it. So make sure, if I did comment in there, to scale the person down a little bit more, that you're kind of adjusting that, making that adjustment. You want to make sure it looks balanced, between the two. I know it's a little hard because it's such a weird image, but kind of think about the ratio of human and the horse part. As far as scale is concerned. Blend between fur and skin needs work. Some of you, it looked like an obvious cutout. And I mentioned before in the last live lecture about using the rubber stamp tool. We'll go over that again today to kind of make it look blended in a little bit more, the fur kind of going up along the body to make it look more believable. Some of you guys kind of had it cut a little bit more of a harsh composition of the two coming together. So we'll kind of blend that a little bit better. If hands and hooves are missing, use something to hide the missing hands and hooves. Now, again, you guys are in the adjustment period, so I kind of said this last week, you know, I don't mind if you just kind of plop it on there. So really what I want to see this week is you kind of taking care of some of those issues. So you're kind of hiding some things or adjusting them so it looks more realistic, and we'll talk about that as we go forward here. All right, so let's go into week 4 and your assignments right away. We'll get into the good stuff here so we can get started. But like I said, if you guys have any questions, concerns, in the meantime, bring it up now. I'll have it open for critique later after we're done here, so you guys will have some time to kind of discuss any issues or things going on. All right, so when we started talking blending modes in week 2, we learned about color, soft light, and color burn blending modes and how they can be used to help your composites blend together. This week, we will look at 3 more blending modes that can give you even more control, making your blends even more realistic. You have the color dodge. It creates a nice high contrast color effect that saturates the midtones and brightens the highlights. You have saturation, an ideal blending mode for taking yellow out of white objects like teeth or removing color from an object that you want to make appear pure black. You have overlay, the most commonly used blending mode for applying texture or pattern to a subject. So that is especially useful when used in conjunction with a clipping mask. CMYK and RGB modes. In the professional publishing world, the final PDF would be delivered in CMYK mode, the ideal mode for printing. Let's take a look at the differences between CMYK and RGB. So RGB mode is probably the most popular mode used by designers, though it is recommended for designs intended for the screen rather than print. Excuse me, guys. RGB is an additive color model which represents how colored light works. The RGB stands for red, green, blue, and in Photoshop, the RGB mode is the most adaptable of all color modes. It is also the default when starting a new project. When you work in this mode, you will have access to the full range of adjustment layers, filters, and blending modes. Want to use an adjustment layer, such as a gradient map, to make some really interesting two-tone color effects on your photo? Use RGB mode. For this reason, many print designers like to work on RGB mode and then convert their designs to CMYK mode when it's ready for print. CMYK mode, also known as for color or process color, is a subtractive color model that is recommended for print design work. CMYK refers to the 4 ink colors that are used in print production, so cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Black is called a key plate. Because the CMYK mode offers fewer adjustment layers and filters, some print designers like to begin their project in RGB mode and then convert to CMYK. Since computer monitors are RGB mode, they do not accurately represent what a CMYK project will look like when it's printed. For the purposes of the assignment, you will be working on a project in RGB mode, so you have the access to the full range of blending modes and adjustment layers. So just make sure if you're in Photoshop working on your project, and I'll show you where to check that, you are in RGB mode. Chances are you are, because it's defaulted in that way, but I'll show you where you can check that out. Okay, so prompt. Last week we began the Centaur project. We perfectly masked the Centaur and placed him or her on a fantasy background. But we have not used blending modes, adjustment layers, and texture to finish the project. Before you begin adding adjustment layers and blending modes, ensure the masks on the human, horse, and background are all clean and precise. So that's the first step. If you need to make adjustments to that from week 3, definitely do that before going into the rest of the process here. The adjustment layers and blending modes will be added to help the horse, human, and background elements look like they belong together. These adjustment layers and blending modes should also be altered to create mood and feeling. When you finish the project, the horse and human should be perfectly masked and perfectly blended together, and you need to have the coloring, lighting, and texture in place to give the project a finished look. All right, so assignment instructions. Take your week 3 assignment and save it as, you can see the name there. Make any tweaks from your instructor's feedback, utilizing blending modes and masking techniques to create a seamless composition of all 3 images. Pay close attention to ensure all shadows and masks are appropriate, precise, and clean to make it look as realistic as possible. Feel free to add additional adjustment layers. Oh, sorry, guys. Or color effects to create an overall mood or feeling that might give your piece that added polish. Save it as, names there for week 4, PSD. Then go to image mode, and select RGB. Do not merge layers. Go to image size, and resize your document to 72 dots per inch. Using the settings and file export, save your resized document as a JPEG named as such. Then upload your JPEG to your Behance site. So this is kind of the next step in the process. So submission instructions, you're going to name your file PSD file, week 4, your first and last name, at the original 300 DPI size and convert it to CMYK mode. Submit PSD for grading. So your Photoshop native file. Then you're going to upload the 72 dots per inch JPEG to your Behance site. You're going to copy and paste the link to the Behance site into the comment section of the gradebook, and also email the link to your associate dean or faculty program advisor and CC your instructor, which would be me. Any questions so far? So you're basically going to be enhancing this further as we go forward here. And then when you're all done, you're going to be saving it as 2 different, well, you're going to be saving a PSD file, so that's what you'll be submitting for your final submission. And then you're going to be adding the lower res to your Behance site, and then obviously emailing me, as well as CCing me, as well as your associate dean, faculty, FPA, your link. No questions so far? Okay. All right, so let me go and start with my project that I kind of left off on in the demo here. I had 2 that I was actually working on with you guys in the demos. So I'm going to open up both of these and kind of give you some tips and tricks on how you can get started and approach this project. So I have this one that we kind of did the first demo of, and then this is the second one that I did. Now notice, obviously there's a lot of things that I need to work on as far as making it look more blended in. The feet of the horse doesn't quite look realistic there with the how they're cut off there. And then obviously the tone color of the body doesn't quite match the background. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to make the color from the background to the foreground. We're going to basically make it look more realistic. I'm going to show you some techniques on how to take that color from the background and move it to the foreground. All right. Now, before we get into those steps, I just wanted to mention a couple things that I did notice before, and that was the whole blending of the horse to the body. And I showed this in the last lecture on how to kind of remedy that. And some of you guys had an obvious cut line. We want to make sure that this is blended nicely. So what I did was I took the rubber stamp tool over here. Clone stamp tool. I always say rubber stamp tool. My apologies. Make sure that your brush has a feather, kind of like a softness to it. It can be bigger or smaller. You can do the right or left brackets for the shortcut key to make it larger or smaller. And then what we're going to do is we're going to actually click on the horse layer, not the mask, the horse layer, and we're going to hold down the Alt Option key. And we're going to select an area that we want to copy to put over top of the body. So let's say we'll get real close to this main part. Get a little smaller here. I'm going to put it right here because I want to kind of add it kind of on the back side here because I can kind of see a line poking through here. So I'm going to do an Alt, and then I'm going to click right over top of my body. So I'm sampling that image. And I can see when I pull my, I didn't even click yet, but you can see intuitively it's saying, hey, where do you want this placed? And I can click right over top. And what I need to do is actually click onto my person layer. So the actual body, click on him. And then I can add by clicking right over top this textured layer. So it makes it look, you know, more realistic. You keep on adding here. Keep on sampling, go back. Keep on adding to the body here. More realistic type of a look. So some of you guys definitely have to go in there and fix that if you need to, if I kind of mentioned it in your changes here. And that just kind of makes it look more realistic. It doesn't, I mean, obviously it's sci-fi, so it's not a real look, you know, image, but it looks more believable in terms of, you know, his body kind of matching that. Some of you guys may need to shift the body a little bit, you know, as far as rotation. So edit, transform. Say you need to rotate it just a little bit. You can definitely do that here. If you think, you know, his body may need to be shifted a little bit, you definitely can do so here and just kind of pop it around. And again, you can refine this mask, feather it by clicking on the, I just clicked on his body layer and adjusting, adjusting these presets here. We can feather in the selection. And this will kind of give you a better idea when you're viewing this. Show the original and then kind of click on and off. You can see the line around his arm is getting a little, you can go kind of extreme just to see the differences here. So you can refine here. You definitely can play around with the feather, and the density and all that good stuff. All right, let's go back to layers here. All right, what else did I notice with you guys? Oh, so yeah, distortion. This is kind of what I was talking about. A lot of you guys had a distortion. Let me show you what I mean by that. If you were, instead of holding on the shift key to make him larger or smaller proportionately, some of you guys need him either more wide or more skinny tall. And you can definitely tell that this is happening. Look at my width and my height up here, my presets. It goes from width being 100%, but the height is going to 122. Make sure you're not, you know, it's 100 and 100 on both sides, so you're not distorting that in any way. Okay, zoom out, kind of take a look at it. We will kind of fix the feet here as we go forward. There's a few things that you can do. Let me hide some things here so we can kind of see what we're dealing with. I'm gonna put like just a solid black layer here. There's a few things that you can do because obviously you're not gonna get the feedback. You know, you're not seeing the foot here. So there's a few things that you can do. And one of the tips that a lot of you guys hopefully read about in the announcements was, you know, just hiding the feet. You know, and in that regards, I would select both of these layers and I would just kind of hide it off of the side and maybe make him a little bit bigger so that you're kind of cutting off the feet part so you don't really see it anyway and you're kind of not having to worry about making it look realistic or not. So you're kind of dodging that issue there. So you could do that too. Another thing that you can do, let me go back to when it was smaller, if you don't want to kind of cut the feet off there and you want to keep them a little smaller, you can add a new layer. Let's put this kind of over top of the bottom layer, so it's kind of in between here. I'm going to fill it with black or any type of color that you want maybe related to that. And actually, let's put it over top of the actual centaur itself as well. And now what we're going to do is we're going to actually do a gradient on this. So we're going to go over here to the toolbox and choose the gradient tool and just make sure your gradient that you have selected is the one that goes from black to transparent. Oops. Sorry. All right, and let's see, do I have the right one? Yeah. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to actually do a, well, hold on one second. Transparent one. There's a transparent one that may be better to use than this gradient one. I'll just show it to you with this one. I think this will be normal. Opacity here, opacity is 40%. All right, so we're going to do a mask on that fill, and then we're going to take that gradient tool and hold the shift key down, and we're going to let it go. As we hold that shift key down, it's going to allow us to lock it vertically in place. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to, let me throw this out and start over again. Just going to throw the mask out here. Let me fill this, hold on. We're going to take that gradient and just kind of click up above here, so we have, where you click is kind of where that gradient's going to start. So it's going to go, if you start with the fill on the foreground, it's going to go from, if you go downwards with your pull of your line, it's going to go from gradient to black. Okay, so let's hide this real quick and you can kind of see the full gradient there. Okay, and this kind of already like hides the bottom part, so we don't even have to worry about flipping his legs down. Now I can pull this down further. I can make it less opaque to kind of hide some things but not be full fill. You know, can try a couple things here. Now we do have lettering from the, you know, that's not showing here, from the story that we'll need to worry about if we do full black there, but we'll worry about that in a second. But that's one thing that you can do to avoid the whole foot thing. So it's kind of like a little bit more believable there. Okay. Let me do another layer here. I'm going to fill this with white. Adjustment layer. And what we can do is the opposite here. Oops. So we're kind of doing the opposite, but we're kind of radiating it so that that copy will be able to be shown. Oops. Trying to adjust this. I think I have to, wait a second. Wait. Let's do this again. We can just pull this down. Okay, so you're basically doing the same thing, only the other way, so that the bottom copy can be easier to read. All right. Now, with that being said, let's take a look at how we can make him blend into the surroundings. Right now, the surroundings, look at the, it's more blues and kind of like the darker, foggy type of a look. So you got more blues, and you have the light source kind of coming behind him. It's kind of a diffuse light though, so it's hard to say where that light's coming from. But I'm going to show you how to make him look more realistic and fit into this in a technique that you can try it. It's a little quicker. So let's go forward here. I'm going to hide the lettering so we can kind of get in also maybe some of these. Oh, here. Okay. So say we're happy with the adjustments being made here. We just need to make him fit into the surroundings. So let's take a look at whether the subject is too light or dark compared to the background. So what we're going to do is we're going to take, we're going to do a channel mixer here. So what we're going to do is choose this little, almost like a black and white cookie. I want to say it's your, let's see, what is this called? I always forget what this is called. Create new fill or adjustment layer. So this is your adjustment layers. And I usually go about it a different way other than this, this selection here. But we're going to go to Channel Mixer. When we go to Channel Mixer, I'm going to choose Monochrome. And this is just to show me, okay, does this subject, is it too light or too dark for the background? Does it all match? And it looks actually not too bad. I would say maybe his body might be a little lighter. But for the most part, it looks like it's blending in quite well. If there's issues with the lighting, we need to go and change that. We need to go and change that in regards to the lighting. So let's go ahead and say, okay, well maybe his body needs to be a little darker. So we're gonna go and do an adjustment layer and maybe choose levels for that. And levels is a great way to change maybe certain parts. You know, maybe his highlights need to be a little darker. So we can choose the highlights. And your stoppers start from the lowest, darkest point to your neutral and to the lightest. So if you want to adjust your lightest, you want to slide it. Oh, we gotta do something first before we do this. We gotta do a clipping mask. So we gotta do an Alt Option click, and the clipping mask will only adjust to the body here. So now, see how we can, it's not affecting anything else but the body. So we did an Alt Option click on that layer. So if we wanted to make him a little darker and say his neutral tone to match a little bit better, we can kind of use that neutral tone to go a little darker. And now we can go back and do that same channel mixer. Let's take a look here. Oops. Of course, let me see if that works on. We'd have to flatten this out. So let's do that first. So let's get rid of this channel mixer and we're gonna flatten this out. Merge these layers together. Okay, then we're gonna do the channel mixer again. Okay, now he looks, you know, he blends in a little bit better with the background. It's a very slight change. He looks definitely like he blends a little bit better there. Okay, let's get rid of this layer. We don't need that. Just showing the lights in the dark. So we're pretty good. All right, the next thing that you want to check, let's do a new layer. Oops, no, new path, new layer. Let's put this kind of above here. And what we're going to do is we're going to fill this with, we're going to make this an adjustment layer. See here. Oops, but before we do that, we're going to fill it with red. Oops, let's just use a color here. Red, it's like a bright red. Okay, and we're going to give it a mask. All right, so then we're going to go to hue. So once we see that, what we're going to do is look at the saturation. This is looking at your saturation levels within both of your foreground image and your background image. So with adding this color layer, just to see where your saturation levels are at and what needs to be fixed, what, you know, is more saturated than other areas, you can kind of tell, you know, where the red is. That's kind of telling me that those areas, so I'm going to show you here so you can see. So these areas here, oops, let me do a new layer here. Get this out. Like here, and here, and all here, and even his body is very saturated as compared to, say, down around here is less saturated. Up here is a little saturated, but you can tell that's more saturated areas versus the less saturated areas. Okay, so with that being said, what we need to do is kind of match the saturation levels. We kind of want to make sure that it blends well together in the area that it's in. So for instance, where the feet are, you know, that needs to be desaturated and, you know, kind of taken care of there. So kind of, you need to blend it so that everything is the same saturation-wise. You need to have the saturation of the subject matching the saturation of the background. Right now we kind of have it kind of displaced here. So I'm going to get rid of this. Actually, let me hide this. I'm going to keep this. Let me hide that. And we can already tell just by looking at this subject, he's way, you know, kind of off as far as the color goes. So what we're gonna do, there's a couple of things that you can do, but one of the things that you can do is actually select some of the color of the background and paint over the image as a mask, okay? So let's select the background and let's take our eyedropper tool. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of sample some of the colors around. And this is, you might need to do an adjustment layer just to get him kind of where it needs to be. We might need to do that extra step first because he's so much yellow compared to the background. So why don't we do that first before I get into that, all that details here. Let's do an adjustment layer and let's change the, you can either do the hue saturation or color balance. Let's go to color balance first. Now I'm just changing his torso. Okay, so right now his torso, if you take the eyedropper tool and select in there, you can tell in the highlights, actually selecting, you know, it's very peachy looking, and then, you know, you kind of have, you don't want to lose too much of that, but you want it to look more blended as far as the overall skin tone. So what we can do is kind of take out some yellow and maybe add some blue to it. Oops, before we do that, we need to actually make a clipping mask. So Alt Option again, click right on top. So you're just affecting the body here and not everything else. So you can kind of, you know, I'm gonna do it really extreme so you can see what I'm doing here. Pulling down the levels, so you're taking away the red. This is adding red. So what we really wanna do is kind of take away a little bit of the red there, right? We kind of want to add, maybe not so much blue, but just kind of leave this a little bit. Kind of want to make him look a little cooler. Maybe a little less green there. So I'm affecting the mid-tones here, and now I can go into the highlights and kind of do the same if I think that needs a little bit more or less believable tone there. What's nice about the adjustment layers, you can hide it and take a look and kind of always change it if you need to. Another thing that's nice about the adjustment layer is you can add this same adjustment layer to your to the horse layer. Okay, so all you need to do is hold down the Alt key and drag it kind of over top, and it makes a copy. Now the only thing we need to do, because it's applying it to the whole background, is do the Alt click option so that's only doing it to the body of the horse. So see what I just did there? It's kind of changing the color to just the horse because I had to do a clipping mask. The Alt click in between the two layers so that's only applying it to the horse background. Any questions about that so far? Yes, Thomas.
What happens if you don't have if you're not using this exact picture or anything? How would you go about changing things?
You would do similar techniques. It would just be to a different image. And I'll show you, like on, for instance, I'll do it to this one as well, so you can kind of see two different designs and I'm doing it to.
Okay, because I ended up using, I think, this guy and horse too.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be the same figure that you're working with, but, and even the background might be different, but you're using the same techniques that should come up with similar effects, if that makes sense.
Okay. Well, yeah, I need to. Yeah, well, when it kind of gets time to where I can show you what I have so far, I need to get your opinion on how to fix certain things.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that even at the end of the class here because we'll have some time to take a look.
Okay.
Yeah, because everybody's is going to be a little different because you might not be using the same person, but the techniques are the same. You just need to figure out what's the best for yours because yours might be more red or more blue, depending on the background and all of that. So, All right, so you can kind of see if I'm hiding the adjustment layers, how much that has changed my image so far. Oops, not that part. And kind of made them look a little bit more part of the background. Now, still there's still lighting things that I need to deal with. There's obviously some issues going on with the belly of the horse, but you know, we'll definitely get to that here in a second. I'm gonna take a 5-minute break here so you guys can take a little respite, and then I'll continue on. Does that sound good? And then what I'll do too is I'll kind of do the same techniques to the other image so you can kind of see 2 different backgrounds and 2 different images, and then we'll go from there. All right, guys, I'll see you guys back in 5 minutes. Okay, can you guys hear me? All right, looks like our 5 minutes is up here. Let's go on and continue this. Awesome. All right, so what I did was I just kind of added some color balance adjustments. You might add maybe hue saturation adjustments depending on the image. Right now, I think maybe a little bit of a desaturation might work for his body. You don't want to make him look too blue, but let me just show you real quick. If I throw on a adjustment layer of hue saturation, if I pull the saturation down a little bit, you can see how his body gets a little less saturated right there. We don't want to make him look too cold. You know, obviously he's a part human, so you don't want him to look too blue, but you want him to look like he's part of the background. So I'm just taking out a little bit of the yellowness out there. Okay. All right, so once that is adjusted or needs to be adjusted, it might not, depending on the background of your image. We're gonna go and do a couple techniques to make him look a little bit like he fits in with the background in terms of the lighting. So you can kind of look at him in the aspect of, you know, are there darker areas, more darker blue areas? Kind of look all around the edges of his body, even the horse part. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab some color from each side to kind of paint over and use our blending modes to kind of add to his body so he looks like he belongs to the background a little bit more. All right, so with that being said, what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of the sample background. So we're going to click on the background and take an eyedropper tool, and let's do maybe the bottom part here where it's yellow. Excuse me. So I'm going to sample over here, just kind of click on here, and you can see I sampled this fill here. All right, so then what we're going to do is we're going to place that over this layer, which is over the horse body. So we're going to check once we select it, we're going to check the horse body. So we're kind of placing it on the right layer. And we're going to do an actual new layer on top of that. So create new layer. We're going to take the brush tool. We're going to make sure that the brush tool is, you know, big enough, it has a soft edge to it. Okay. And again, you can do right bracket, left bracket to make it larger and smaller. Whoops, not like that. Sorry about that. All right, right bracket, left bracket, smaller, larger, smaller. Okay, so with that fill, I just sampled, I'm going to, on the new layer, kind of paint over with the brush tool this area that I kind of sampled. So I'm going to kind of paint over in this area here. Now, obviously, it's going to look pretty dark, and that's okay because it's a layer that I'm just kind of placing it on. Now what we're going to do is we're going to change the blend mode, and I'm going to try the soft light. And when I change it to soft light, look how kind of that changes that color right there. And you can change the opacity. So if you wanted less of that, you can dial down the opacity or dial up the opacity depending on what it is there. Now, I'm going to go back and actually go back to my brush tool, and I'm going to, oops, sample that again. Oops. And I'm going to change it to normal. And I'm going to paint over maybe the belly part. Okay. Now you can play around with the blending modes, you know, with the lighting here. Vivid light, hard light, depending on how you want to hit this. Well, that's a hard mix. You probably don't want to do that. You can kind of change it up and then, you know, obviously adjust it from there. Okay. Looks like I still need to kind of make some adjustments to the bottom here where it's more yellow. So we'll kind of take a look at this here in the mask mode. Oops. As we go forward here. Maybe we even do an adjustment layer and kind of adjust the saturation again of this. So let's go ahead and do that. Actually, let's take, let's do a color balance. Oops. And what we want to do here is we want to do a selection. Actually, let's do not color balance. Let's try hue and saturation. And we don't want to do colorize. We want to take down the saturation. So that's kind of matching a little bit better there. Let's see what that looks like here. So we're getting a little bit of a more blue look in there. Maybe we can give that an opacity so it's not quite as strong. They're kind of changing that area just a little bit. All right, now let's go all around the body again. You guys can't see what I'm doing? Here, hold on. Was I sharing the right screen? Can you see the screen now? Okay. So what I did is I just added a hue saturation, dialed the saturation down just a little bit. You can see the before and after. Did you see this, how I did this layer up here before that? And I'm going to show you it again, so it's not like you're going to miss this totally. I'm going to do a new layer again. And I'm going to sample. I'm going to take the eyedropper tool just like I did before. Select my lower layer, so the background layer. And I'm going to sample, let's see. Maybe more so over here, so it's a lighter color. I'm going to do a new layer. I'm going to put it over top of our body here. And I'm going to, again, paint over his body on the right side here. Okay. And then I'm going to do soft light blend over top. See how that changed that? I'm going to do hide that. So you kind of change that area to maybe blend in more with that background area. Now, if it's too much, okay. If it's too much, you can dial the opacity down a little bit so it looks more believable there. But look how much that changed that lighting so that he looks like he belongs a little bit more with that background. Okay, I'm going to do another new layer. And this time I'm going to sample, again, go back to my bottom layer so that I can sample, let's see, where's my eyedropper tool? Sample over here. It's probably the same color, really. Go to this new layer, and I'm going to paint over on this side. Okay. I'm going to change my blend mode to soft light. And it's a little much, so I'm going to dial this down a little bit. But you can see the before and after. Okay. Same thing down here. I'm going to take my eyedropper tool and I'm going to kind of grab this darker pixel information. I'm going to do a new layer, and we're going to do this one over top of the horse. Take my paint tool, and we're going to paint kind of around here. And we can even paint down here. And then give it a soft light. You can kind of see the effects this is giving to this. So it kind of blends it in a little bit better there. And I'm going to do one more sampling. I'm going to do it over here on top of the butt of the horse. Do a new layer. Take my paintbrush and just paint right over top of this part. Go up to blend mode, soft light. Dial it down just a little bit. You can kind of see the light there being changed. All right, now I can kind of still see the ridge there. Now on all of these layers, I can add a mask. So I'm gonna add a mask to that one because I can still see like an edge there. So I'm gonna add a mask and I'm gonna just go ahead and delete, or not delete, but just kind of make it look softer. And I can kind of go around the outside edge too. Same thing with this one. I'm gonna do a mask on the bottom part so that I'm eliminating certain areas if I need to. I think this one, I'm not sure what that one is. Same thing with this one. We can add a mask on this one and kind of delete any edges or any weird stuff going on there. The right side, just make it look more realistic in certain areas here. I think that's it. There's this layer. I'm not sure what layer this is. I'm going to delete this one because it's not really showing anything. All right, so you can see like how much that has blended in and changed certain aspects of the horse and his body. I'm going to do one more, maybe right here. It's a little darker right here. Okay, and then just add like a layer mask and we can kind of adjust this. So brush tool, there we go. All right, so that's a way how to kind of adjust the background to look more. It's a quick, kind of the quicker steps on how to make it look like it's in there. So let me add. You can kind of see now when I turn on that layer how some of the you know, it's kind of looking more even now in certain spots. All right. Any questions about anything that I just showed you? This kind of blends in a little bit better in the background for sure. I'm going to do this to the other example too. So let's see if this is project 4. But let me show you where we started. Let me open up. Give me 1 second here, guys. Start the before and after here. Let's see. This one. So this was the before, and that's the after. Now you can add texture to this. You know, there's still some things that you can add to make this look more believable. Like for instance, see how smoky that is? We can add like a blur so we can duplicate the background. Let's just do that real quick. Let's add a blur to this, duplicate. So go up to filter blur and we'll just go to Gaussian blur. We'll just give it a nice blur there. Click OK. And then what we can do, oops. Let's see, whoops, I went down. Play around with it so that the blur, which we might have to put on top of the image here. Let me see here real quick. And then adjust the opacity. There we go. So we're adding that on top. We can dial the opacity down and kind of he's in there a little bit more believable there. So I just added a soft light blend. I blurred the overall image, and now I'm giving it a 50% opacity. We can even go a little lower than that, like 50. And you can see how that kind of affects how he looks. It's a little bit more smoky looking and blending in a little bit more. So I just duplicated the background layer, pulled it on the top. I did a Gaussian blur and a soft light blend with a 50% opacity. So you can see I have a lot of layers in here. All right, let's go. I'm going to save this, and then let's go over to this one and see how we can adjust this one, because your background might be different than what I just showed you, which is okay. You can still do the same techniques. Like I was telling Thomas, you know, obviously this color is different than what you see on the last one, so you need to adjust it accordingly, especially on the horse and her body as well. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the same thing. If any adjustments need to be made, say on her body where it kind of continues on, we can make that. Right now I'd say, you know, maybe we can add a little bit more fur here. So again, we're gonna take the clone stamp tool and we're going to do an Alt Option click. And we're going to select that area here and then go right on her layer so we can kind of add this on. This is all masked out here, so it will only show over top of here. So but you can kind of add fur on this side. It's just right here where the mask is, where it's kind of, you have to kind of pay attention to it. So we can kind of play around with that with the mask. Oops. By just kind of eliminating some of that here. Oops. Get smaller. So I just clicked on the mask and I'm just kind of eliminating some of the area here. Yeah, I gave this horse to you guys in announcements. This is one that wasn't provided, but I gave to you guys in announcements you can use. Yeah. It still looks kind of weird here. I'm gonna have to adjust this. Oops. So I'm just kind of eliminating some of this hump here. It looks kind of strange. I didn't notice it until now. All right. All right, so again, we can take a look at the, go to your layer, her picture layer, go down to your adjustment layers, and we're gonna choose channel mixer again and just choose monochrome. And again, we're just basically looking at the overall lightness and darkness. Does this look pretty good for the lightness and darkness? We're not talking about saturation yet or color. We're just making sure that, you know, she looks pretty similar to the background as far as the horse. Now, she looks a little maybe more contrasted. So because of that, let's delete this again. And let's do an adjustment layer. And why don't we dial her contrast down a little bit. So we go brightness and contrast. Oops, we got to do an adjustment layer. So Alt-click in between the layers so we can just adjust her. And if we dial down her contrast, maybe her brightness a little bit, oh, maybe not so much her brightness. And then we go back to your channel mixer. Of course, we want to break that. Okay, so now you can kind of see, let me hide this. See how she looks like she's blended in a little bit better. So let's delete this color mixer, we don't need that. And then we make sure that there we go. So we're not changing anything outside of that. So we're just changing her contrast level there. Okay. All right, the next thing would be, again, let's do a fill, and we'll just give it a bright color. Let's do red. Again, and we'll give it a mask here. And then go to hue. All right, so here we can see the saturation levels. So you can tell where it's real saturated is where you're seeing the overlay color, and where it's less saturated, you're not seeing it so much. So the horse in the body area, of course, doesn't look as saturated. The path, of course, doesn't look as saturated. So it pretty much looks even. The only thing I would probably change is the horse. But it looks pretty good in terms of saturation is concerned. All right, now before I even do anything, I'm gonna kind of group select, shift select the horse and her body, and I'm just gonna go scale her a little bit bigger, and I'm gonna rotate her just a little bit. Now you can always also, there's a perspective and a distort button, and you have to be really careful with this, but if you wanted to maybe make her look like she's walking maybe more towards the path, this is where it gets a little tricky. You don't want to really distort this too much. I'm actually not even going to apply that. I'm just going to rotate her a little bit because it gets kind of tricky, but you could definitely play around with that. Just make sure you're not distorting it too much. It's all in kind of where she is. Okay. Now again, we can put that whole fill below here to take care of the feet issue, or we can, you know, kind of make her bigger and cut off the feet. So we don't even have to worry about it. It might actually work a little bit better. So let's do this method since we didn't do the other one. We can still kind of add a feather type of a color at the bottom, kind of decide that in a second here. All right, the next thing is just kind of make her blend in with the background here a little bit more. The lighting that's going on, this is a little tricky because you have 3 different tones going on here. So let's go ahead and grab, delete this layer because I'm not sure what that layer is for. Go to the bottom layer. We're going to take the eyedropper tool. Where is it? There it is. Let's do around the face area. So I'm going to sample around the face area here. Let's see here. You can just click like anywhere around here. I'm going to do a new layer and just make sure that layer is over top of the layer that you're trying to change here. Okay, and then take your brush tool, adjust the edges so they're softer, and we're just going to paint over the area that you want to make look like more of the bluer area. And then we're going to change the blend mode. Let's see what the soft light does to soft light. All right, see how that kind of changed it there? Now I can add a mask to that. Say if it's too much, I can dial down the opacity. And then I can also kind of clean up that mask, or clean up the edges there. I can dial down the opacity of that effect, but you can kind of see how she's blending in a little bit more with the top part. Okay, I'm going to go back down to my main layer, the background layer. I'm going to take my eyedropper tool. I'm going to select, say over here, and do a new layer and paint over this part of her body. Make sure my opacity is up all the way. And then again, change the soft light. You can see the effect going on there. And then you just kind of continue that all the way around, grabbing the pixel information, the color, new layer. What did I just do? Sorry guys, hold on one second. That's something weird. There's something funky is going on here. Hold on. Let me save this. And save as. Open this up again. That's some weird things going on here. Okay, there we go. All right, let's do this again. Select the bottom part here, get a new layer. Take my brush tool. Why is this not showing now? It's really weird. Let me delete this here. Grab a darker color. Here we go. %. Should be painting over top of this, but for some reason it's not. There we go. And then I can dial down the opacity there. You can kind of see how that's affecting that. I'm going to do my mask layer and just kind of get rid of some of the edges here. It'd be too yellow, but you get the, or too pink, but you get the idea for sure. It's kind of giving that light to it. And then you can always flip this if you want to add more pink to it. Just kind of FYI, dial down the opacity, add more pink to it if you like. Okay. Okay, I'm going to grab a little bit more area here. Let's do the darker part. Or actually over here, let's do a layer there. All right, oops. And then dial that down, and then use your, I'm doing this very quick. I'm kind of just, but you can see how that's kind of blending in a little bit more with the surroundings. Now I'm going to go back to her. Oh, you know what? I put a working path on her. That's probably why that got all screwed up. Let's do around here. think these need to be tucked in here. Hold on. There we go. Disappearing. There we go. Okay. All right, so you can kind of see as I'm doing the show before and after, you can see the differences when we hide all of the things going on here. She kind of blends in a little bit better now, more so. Not sure why these clipping masks aren't working correctly here, not giving me the right opacity. All right, probably the belly of the horse I need to change too, because it looks very yellow. So let's just go with, see, maybe the pinker look here. Even down here. Yep. You mean at this point, can you change horses? I guess if yours is kind of way off and I had mentioned about, you know, needing to change it, you know, that's something that you might want to do. But if you think it's going to be more effective that way, you know, you might have to. See how that kind of changed? I'm going to change this over here because it's kind of getting a little bit too pink. Oops. There we go. If I click on the mask. So that's kind of changing that look there. And then maybe the back of her head here. Yeah, so I mean, if you think that the horse needs to be swapped out because of something that I had mentioned, yeah, I mean, definitely do so if you think you can do it more effectively with another horse. I know some of you guys had issues with that. So if I did state about doing a different horse, you might want to try a different horse there. All right, do a little mask there. But you guys get the general idea, right? It's kind of a cool little quick technique to try to blend, make it blend in a little bit better. Now she still might need a little bit of a less saturated look about her body. We can put another adjustment layer and adjust that. So maybe just going to hue, saturation, new adjustment layer, kind of dialing down. Oh, go back up here and do a clipping mask so I'm not just doing it to everything else. But dialing down her, you know, she looks pretty bright. I'll show you the before and after. Same with the horse. We can also put an adjustment layer on that. Hue, saturation. Let me put a clipping mask on that. Now just make sure when you're making those adjustments that nothing else is getting too bright in terms of, you know, some of this pink is getting a little bright, so I might want to dial this down a little bit more. All right. All right, so let's put the name on here. Just make sure everything's readable. We can still do something down here, like say for instance, if you want to, let me put a layer in between the original layer. Let me click on the original layer and I'm gonna just sample that pink, maybe the dark pink, and then fill the top new layer with that color. Oops, foreground color. And then do kind of like your own, although I probably put it over top of this layer. There we go. So that it's kind of blending in with the background too. and then maybe even copy it to put it here. Oops, let me do a copy. I'm gonna put this over that as well. There we go. So you can do something like that where it kind of blends in a little bit better. So the before and after of that one, I don't know if I have the before, let me see. I might have accidentally saved over it now that I think about it. Hopefully not. Yeah, I accidentally saved over it. But I'll do, I think I saved up to a certain point, but you can see before and after here. So I'm kind of changing that look there. Okay. Any questions about that? So you're going to be saving the PSD file to submit for your final. So PSD file is what you're going to be submitting. And then let's go back to the instructions here. You're going to be doing the rest of this. So number 6 through number 9 will be the next step. So we're going to go to image mode next after saving it as PSD file. So you're going to submit that. Then we're going to go to image mode and select RGB to not merge layers. And then we're going to go to image size and resize the document to 72 dots per inch. And then we're going to go file export, save your resize.
I can't see anything that you're reading. My screen is black.
Okay. I'm reading off of the Canvas instructions. Can you see that, Thomas? Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna go out and come back in.
Okay. It sounds like some kind of weird issue you're having there.
Trust me, it did that to me like in week 2 or week 2 it did that to me, and I had to come back in because it was like right when the lecture was completely just about over, and I was able to come back in and catch the last bit that you said because my screen went completely black a couple of times. And then last week, the reason I wasn't in any of the lectures because it said that you locked Zoom out.
Yeah, something weird was happening. I don't know. I did an update, so maybe the update kind of took care of that.
So, yeah, but Zoom's been acting really funny lately.
Interesting. Well, hopefully, if anything, the recording will help her out if she doesn't see anything on her end.
Right.
Let's see if she comes back in here. All right. Well, while we're waiting, can you see us now? We'll wait for.
Yes.
Yay. All right. Maybe when I switch screens, is that when it usually happens?
That's when it happened to me, was when you switch screens when it normally goes black.
Huh, weird. All right, let me switch screens and see if it changes, okay? So I'm gonna show you how to export this out as a JPEG. So let me switch screens. Let me know if that happens again. Can you see the screen, my Photoshop file?
I still can.
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, that's kind of weird. So I just have to figure out just a weird thing going on, I guess, huh? All right. Well, since you can see, I'm going to go forward. I'm going to go to, and whatever you missed, you can definitely catch up on the recording. I hopefully caught everything that you may have missed. All right, go up to image mode. It's already RGB, so I'm good to go. So this is when you're ready to save out. Go file, export, and we're going to export as a JPEG. Hopefully you guys can see my settings here. Hold on 1 second. I stopped sharing, so you might not see anything right now. Give me 1 moment here. Okay. Can you guys see that? Okay, somebody's typing. Okay. Alrighty, very good, very good. All right, so we want to make sure that, let me see here, quality. Right now we have a pretty large image and we want to change the DPI. Let me cancel this real quick. And I know I'm going back and forth. I'm driving you guys crazy. Sorry about that. We're going to go file save as instead of export as. And we're going to save this as a JPEG. And we're going to go to the low options. And you can always go up to image size, and change this to 72 dots per inch once that is ready to go. Just make sure that when you change this, here, let me show you real quick again, because I just kind of showed you two things at once here. Okay, so you're going to go up to mode, image mode, RGB. Go to image size. After you save it as a PSD file, go to image size and just change the 300 to 72. Click OK. And this is a really important step. You don't want to save it. You want to go file save as. And this will be your, when you name this your file size here, or file name here. Assignment 4. This is the important part. You don't want to save it as a PSD file. You want to save it as a JPEG. If you save over it, you're going to convert your high res to a low res, and you won't be able to change it. All right, and you can just click out of there and don't save. This is the low res JPEG that you will be submitting to Behance. And it should be significantly smaller. I'll show you here real quick. It's 269 kilobytes as compared to 67 megabytes. Now, if your image is too large to upload and you're having problems uploading the PSD file, because I have a 67 meg file that I just told you about, you might need to flatten some areas before saving it. The only bad thing about that is I won't be able to see how you did your image. You might want to zip. Do you know how to zip a PSD file? It's kind of like what you would do if you zipped any other file. Let me go to my desktop so you can see what I'm talking about here. Hide all my stuff. So here's my PSD file. It's very large, 67 megabytes. If you're on a Mac, you just control click, and you want to choose compress. And it zips that PSD into a zipped folder. No, this would be smaller. It goes from 67 megabytes to 48. It's a little smaller. It's going to be a large file though. So hopefully you guys won't have any issues uploading it. If you do, let me know. You can always send me, say, a link to a Dropbox, that I can access it. But it might be, depending upon all of your layers in here, it might be a very large file. All right, any questions so far? Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna open it up if you guys wanna share your work, and then I'll show you kind of how to add it to Behance and stuff tomorrow. So we'll get to that point tomorrow. Thomas, I can hear you. So if you have anything that you wanna share, let me know. I'm gonna kind of just open it up to you guys.
Okay. Who's all in here?
I think it's just you and Saltricia.
Okay. Doesn't matter who.
I don't know if do you have anything to share, Thomas?
I do.
Okay. You want to go first, and then
Sure.
let me stop sharing. You can take over the screen here. And then Saltricia, if you have anything you want to share after him, you can.
Okay, I do.
Okay.
So I know this is on part of your feedback. You said that he looks distorted, and to clear out the white. Now, I ended up grouping him together to kind of, because of the fact that I did hold down the shift key when I did this, because I know that's the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, that white was the only problem I was having because of the fact of the brush tool that I was using. And as far as I know, that's the only feedback that you really...
Yeah, you need to make a more clear, refined selection because right now you can see the white. So using the quick mask.
That's what I did originally when I used the quick mask.
Okay, well, you need to refine that a little bit better because you can still see the white.
Okay.
Can you pull him out of the group so that you can check to see?
Like the guy himself?
Yeah, there we go. Just click on him.
Yeah.
All right. What you might want to do is you might want to just...
Let me see. No, I might have to... I don't know, because just clicking on him, he is part of the group. Let me see if dragging him...
Yeah, I mean, you could just select him. That's fine.
Okay.
I guess just to compare them to the original, you might want to pull up the original just to see how different they are.
Well, the way I did the original... Where's the original? I know I have it. Yeah, because everything has not been in week 3 yet. And I know the original is somewhere, because that's the JPEG right there. Let me see, because I know. That's what I have open now. That's the JPEG. That's the contact sheet. Seriously? Because I've saved all mine. I did not save it as... Because there's the original right there. And I saved it as a JPEG, not as a... Oh, well, I know how to fix this.
We could just grab it from like the class assignment.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do. Like, because I'm surprised that I went to save it as a... I can't believe I saved it as a JPEG. Because I saved myself a lot of work. And I'll show you how I masked them. And that was week 3. There he is. Oh, no, it is open as a JPEG.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They're all JPEGs.
Yeah, then I don't know why Photoshop wouldn't let me open it then.
See how different he looks than the one that you have in there? He looks more lean.
Yeah, I'm trying to...
That's what I was talking about. You distorted him widthwise, I think.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out why Photoshop will not let me open him up. That's what I did.
Okay, click on your desktop. This is the step that you need to do.
I know what I did. I
rename it so that you have, go to the desktop, that wherever you saved it to. Go to desktop. Did you save it to desktop?
I saved it in documents because I have all my stuff in documents.
Okay, see where it says think stop And it's not there. You have wherever you save it, you have to rename it, and those aren't the ones that. That's not the one, and that's the other one isn't either. So go to see if you accidentally saved it to desktop real quick. Go to desktop.
No, there it is.
There it is. All right, let's wait. You need to rename that. So go to your desktop. And say rename, and just type in like man.jpg.
I'll lay down. That is correct, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Then go back to Photoshop. And
Okay.
then go file open. And then go to your desktop. And you can open it that way.
There we go. That's right. That's what I. Okay. Now this is what I did. I know quick mask is somewhere in here.
You have to unlock the layer.
Oh yeah, that's right. It is unlocked. Okay. Where?
Your quick mask is right underneath the lasso tool.
I'm gonna go ahead and exit out.
Okay.
If I need any help, I'll send you an email.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck, Thomas.
You too. See, I didn't use that. I used my quick mask. Like.
Oh no! Use the quick selection tool, and then just select his body. There you go. That's how you get a better selection. And then anytime that you accidentally grab the background, you can just reverse the, you want to, yeah.
Yeah, I knew that. No, see, that's.
You just want the plus sign one, yeah.
Yeah. And see, that's pretty much what I didn't do with him. Because then I even went in, because I did this step, or I went to with the quick mask, because the fact that I did quick mask, because of the fact that I did this first, and see, I don't.
No, I think you use the brush tool to mask out the body part.
No, but see, the quick mask tool somewhere, it's not showing up, and I'm not understanding why, because the quick mask is like supposed to. No, what's going on?
You're talking about like the mask mode?
Yeah, like where, because it's supposed to literally, there it is.
Well, that's just you putting the mask on. You're talking about quick mask mode. That's
Yes.
below your fill and your stroke. It should be under there.
Anyways, I hate that my freaking computer's like.
Just delete that mask. Just, there you go.
Okay, now I know my quick mask tool is somewhere.
It's below the fill and your stroke. Down below that.
Why is it not pulling up?
Hit that double arrow on the top of your toolbar.
This one?
On the very top of the toolbar. Nope. Go down. See the very top, there's two arrows right there. Click on that. Okay. Now, on the left side, there it is right there. Now you have to have a selection in order to see it. So undo that. Undo that. Take your quick mask.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I did. And this is what I did with him. Like, because I didn't want to, because in the lecture you showed to, like, you literally just copied all of him. And I was like, that's just, I'm just going to save myself time and energy, which is why I got what I got, I guess, in some sense. But what I did is I threw on this, then I went up here, and this is how I,
Okay. So you
yeah,
want to make sure, yeah, you might just make sure your selection's better.
yeah, and that's what I did, and that's basically how it's black. No,
Now
no,
go back to quick mask mode. Hit select quick mask.
this one.
No, down below where you just
Yeah.
no, down by your fill and stroke where you just hit that so the red appears. There you go. Now choose your quick mask tool that you had before. Up by, yeah, right there. And as long as you zoom in to his face and his body, you can get all those parts very easily. And if it goes out, you don't want to select the white part, just his body, his skin. And if you go outside, you just went outside of his body. Did you see how you just dragged out?
Yeah.
Okay. So take the negative quick mask on the top and paint over that. Or you can use the Alt key to kind of toggle back and forth. Now you're going to want to paint over the white part, not his face, right? Because you don't
Right.
want that selected.
So this is what, see, that's what I did is I ended up painting, but I ended up using the paintbrush tool to, there we go. That's what I did.
Yeah, but the thing is you're not getting it tightly in there. So you need to make your selections more refined so you don't have that white showing through.
And see, that's what I was doing, and because of each of his hair particles, I was trying to get that too, and that's why there was so much white showing, is because I was trying to literally get his, like, his whole entire fingers in there, and
Yeah, there's a way to do that though and refine it so it doesn't show all that white.
okay,
Yeah, so you're getting too far out where it's going to show all that white. You need to make a more refined selection.
like as far as like a smaller paintbrush tool.
No, I don't think you should use the paintbrush tool because I think that's your issue.
Okay. So
So I think just either using another selection tool, quick mask tool, a little bit better, or even your magnetic lasso tool might be better. Because I think you're getting into the territory of getting it too far out of the details. It's not refined. So you just need to work on that a little bit more.
okay, so exactly what if because see, that's pretty much
Right. So let me share my screen here real quick. So I'm talking about, and I had explained this in other, let me grab. It's just basically making sure that you're using the right selection tool.
well, see what I did, I noticed that in his arms I should have left that mask, and then it was just his face. What I did is I literally went back and literally masked out that white, or I mean brought in that white when it should have been masked out, because I noticed the difference of what it was supposed to be with the quick mask tool and what it was.
Yeah, so don't use the quick mask. If anything, Thomas, use this magnetic lasso tool. That might help you, where you're just kind of going along his body.
The one that basically has the one that clips it already for you.
Well, it's like the quick mask tool, only you have to go kind of all around it on the outside. And you're just kind of, you can use whatever tool. You can even use the pen tool, whatever this is a little bit easier though, I think sometimes. You might have some issues around certain parts of the body that are more contrast.
Yeah, see, because of the fact that I went completely across his chest to give myself just his torso. I didn't like use his legs or anything.
But
like I went completely just.
What you need to do is just make sure your selection is like right on point. That's the issues that you're having, and this tool is really kind of gets the details.
Okay.
Certain areas like his face right here that you said you had issues with.
Yeah, because it's like getting that one eye right there, and
Instead of using the brush tool, you need to use something like one of these, or even the pen tool. And all you need to do is select this area instead of using the brush tool. Select that area and just choose fill foreground color. Oh, background color. You want to deselect it.
okay, what about his eyebrow? Like you're still missing the part of his eyebrow.
Yep, and I'll get to that, but we're getting down to the details here. Let me and now I'm gonna do the magic wand tool and just do a shift select. Let me make sure I'm on the right layer. No. This is not gonna let me shift select this. There we go. Alt Option select, sorry. So I choose that. Now I still have areas I still need to fix, like down here. So I'm gonna zoom in, do the quick mask mode. Then I'm just gonna use my polygonal lasso tool. You could do the pen tool, whatever, magnetic lasso tool, as long as you're selecting the area that you want to be selected. Edit fill, background color. Now you could use the like what you were doing, it's just you were having problems of getting really precise.
Yeah, well, I know in the I've been told, like, anytime I go to Student Success Center, that these projects are like all about detail and trying to make things as real. Well, you even said to try to make these things as real as possible. But if you're like missing like a couple of fingers or something, you know, that's an issue.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be, get in there and actually make the selections like I'm doing here. Just using the selection tools, getting in there. You just have to zoom in and get into the details. You see how I'm selecting this area here? Now I just go edit fill, foreground color. I can do the same thing here. If I selected too much, I just have to reverse the background fill.
So you basically want me to use the magnetic lasso tool to get the small little details that I'm missing?
You can either do that or the pencil, whatever tool that you feel comfortable using.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. This week alone, when I first started with Photoshop, I didn't know much about masking at all. Like, nothing.
Yeah.
And this week, I've learned so much more. Like, so much more.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I mean, that's why you're here, right? That's a good thing. So it's just really going in and making that, these selections are hard because you have very intricate, details that you have to worry about, but it's all about.
So exactly where is.
And making those selections. So I'm just doing the quick mask mode and filling in that area. So like in the finger here, and you don't have to use the poly. See, the only bad thing about the polygonal lasso tool is you don't have an organic shape, but if you were to use the, say, pen tool, you could do like more curves there.
Yeah, see, and I don't.
The only thing with that is you have to make it a working path, but it's not, you just have to remember that. I mean, you can use your brush tool. I would say if you use your brush tool, I would take, the hardness down a little bit. So you're.
Is that what's probably causing it? Is the hardness of the brush tool?
It's, you want it to be a little bit hard or soft, so you're not getting.
Because I got it at, the hardness is at 0%.
You just need to zoom in and really, like I'm doing the brush tool here, but see how I can't really get in there real good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the quick mask. Oh, not the quick mask. Magic tool. I'm just going to take even the magnetic lasso tool and just kind of make a selection here. That's really based on what's appropriate for the area that you're working on. And I think that what you're doing is it's It's okay for bigger parts, but for the smaller details.
See, I can't get my, where is my magnetic lasso tool?
It's probably underneath it's under lasso tool.
I know, but the only one that's showing me is a lasso tool. Like nothing else is.
You have to hold that down, the selection of it, because it's kind of underneath there as an option. Should be.
It's not on my end. That's why I was using the tools that I was using. Maybe I might have to right click. Maybe. Let me see.
Once you kind of get that all settled, you can even refine it more. Let me show you real quick. Put a mask on it, and then double click on that mask, Thomas. And you can choose a feather. You can even go select a mask and then somewhere.
Right. I know this piece is here because it might be me not right clicking. Bubba, lay down. It's okay.
What's that?
Oh, I was talking to my 4-year-old.
Oh.
Well, it's okay. He can go back to sleep. It's actually time for his nap. No.
So just practice, using the selection tools, and, just zooming in will definitely do a world of difference and refine your selections a little bit better.
Okay. I'm glad I got it. See if I wonder if my mom might still have mine. Let me see if I can't maybe get you to see if you can't pull it up and see.
What's that?
Just try to figure out exactly how to, because it's literally not pulling up on my end.
What are you talking about?
To bring it down to the magnetic lasso tool. Let me see if it's in, because it's not layers. Where do I go to get my other tools if it's not showing?
Share your screen. Let me see what you have.
Okay, give me a minute. I got to figure out what I'm doing. See, it's not. I think I gotta right click on it because even
You
just
click and hold that click.
Huh?
Click and hold down on that selection. There you go.
Oh, there we go. That's how I had to do it. Okay. And then
That's the polygonal lasso tool. That's not the magnetic one. So you went.
yeah, and this is why I hate that tool because it literally never works.
So just deselect. You take the marquee tool, and then
The marquee tool.
right to the right of that, and just click anywhere on the canvas. There you go. Magnetic lasso tool is the very last one. Now you still have to zoom in on that. Make sure you're on that layer. Oh, undo.
Really? Oh my god. No, this is literally the reasons why I hate.
Okay, before clicking anything, zoom in on his head, and then choose the tool, and then have a starting point around the head part. There you go. and just carefully just drag it across. Now, if it ends up going offline, just hit the delete and then kind of click where you want it to go. But that's how you would use that tool. And you can refine that, like I showed you in the mask. You don't have to get every hair, you know, we can feather it and, you know, kind of refine that. But that's, and you have to end it where you began it. So once you kind of go down, I would use the space bar to push around your layout so you can keep zoomed in there.
Okay.
And then click when you want to set like your, you know, say if you want to click one time there, you can adjust your screen now. So click one time there and then click your space bar to pull up. So your space bar and hand tool to push up so you can navigate your layout. There you go. While keeping zoomed in on it. There you go.
Gotcha.
And just go all the way around and then throw a mask on it, refine your mask, and you got it.
Okay.
If you need to make adjustments like I did, just kind of do what I did.
Now, yeah, that's, if I just kind of let it glide itself. There we go. Because, like I said, I think my biggest problem was that me trying to get every detail.
Yep. I'm going to have to wrap this up, Thomas. Is there any other questions that you have?
No, I know tomorrow you'll probably be doing the same thing, so I'm going to go ahead and try to get this as much as possible.
Okay.
Because, see, now I got to exactly.
Yeah, you can refine that like I showed you going forward with the quick mask tool. You can use that same tool and refine it.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, if you have any issues, bring it in. We'll have enough time to like look at your work and, you know, I can help you along too. Alrighty.
Alrighty.
All right, well, good luck. It's just kind of getting that selection down, and then make sure you're not distorting your image in any way.
Right.
And then I think once you get that done, you'll be able to go forward with everything else.
Okay, so do you want me to get this mask and everything, and then
just kind of redo it for your reassignment, and then once you're done with that, you can start doing your blends and stuff.
Because I know the horse that I got, I might have to do the same thing with the magnetic lasso tool, because I really don't want to change my horse or the guy that I'm using or anything, because I think they work really, really well together.
Yeah, if you need to redo the horse, now that you can just kind of refining your selection, you might need to do that, which is good. It's good practice. So it's just a little bit more work.
Right, which is fine and everything, so.
All right, well, if you have any issues, bring your stuff in tomorrow. We'll take a look at it, okay?
Okay.
All right, well, you have a great day. And like I said, tomorrow we'll have a lot of time. So if you have any issues with the blending and all that, I can kind of go over that with you too.
Yeah, I think most of my time is probably going to make sure how refined this really is. Because, like I said, the paintbrush tool, I wouldn't have so much white with it if it wasn't for the fact that I wasn't thinking at all.
Yeah, use better selection tools, that's all.
Yeah, and I shouldn't have used his shouldn't have used the shouldn't have painted in the white in between his arms either, though. I think that was a lot to do with it too.
Yeah. Yep, you'll get it.
Like I said, this definitely, the selection tools and everything, I've learned a lot more on how to mask and photo editing and things like that than my when I was in my associate's degree. So
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. That's good. Glad to hear that. All right, Thomas, you good luck with that, and I'll see you tomorrow.
yes, ma'am.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.
Thanks.